A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Marco Roberts, chairman of the Texas Conservative Liberty Forum, Vivian Ho, health economist at Rice University and Baylor College of Medicine, and Lisa Falkenberg, editor of Opinion and soon-to-be senior columnist at the Houston Chronicle. Marco, Vivian, Lisa, welcome to Houston Matters.
Thanks, Craig.
Happy to be
Hi, Craig.
here.
Panel, as we discussed on Monday's program, Apple has announced plans to build a 250,000 square foot server manufacturing facility right here in Houston by sometime next year. The company claims it will create thousands of local jobs. Houston Mayor John Whitmire touted the announcement as proof Houston's the best major city in America to do business. The planned facility will make servers for the company's AI system, Apple Intelligence, and private cloud compute services. These servers are the ones that end up in those server farms that store and back up a lot of the data we all use. They have to date been manufactured outside the U.S. Apple's going to build AI and cloud servers here in Houston. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Lisa Falkenberg, start us off.
Vivian should go first because she probably knows about this. I think it's good. You know, anytime a company, a manufacturer, somewhat productive thing is built in Texas, these data centers, sometimes I'm wondering, what are these things and how many jobs do they actually create? All they do is suck up the power from our grid. But this thing, they're actually building things. And from what I understand, the relationship that Apple's had for years with this Chinese company, that Chinese company has had a presence in Houston. So that's part of the reason why they came here. And so, yeah, more jobs, all of that is great. I have to say, I always feel this twinge of, as a Texan and as somebody who, lives and works here and wants the economy to be strong, I have this pride when people move to Texas. Gone to Texas, great. And then I have this other thought that, the governor, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, whoever, will look at this, the powers that be will look at this and say, see, everything's great in Texas. Everything's great. Everybody wants to come here. See, what we're doing is working. But I guess my question is, how long can we just import brains and not fix our own school system, but just import people from other states? And so that's kind of tangential, but this particular thing seems to be good.
Okay. Good, bad, or ugly? Vivian Ho.
Yeah, I'd say potentially good. Lisa, you know more about this than I do because I did not know the connection with the Chinese firm.
Yeah, I just read our story. I think that was discussed in the story. It was days ago, so I hope I got it right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I agree, potentially good. I'm waiting for the details in terms of these thousands of jobs. Certainly the construction of the 250,000 square foot facility is going to be a lot of construction jobs. And then there was a whole list of things that supposedly people do in these these server manufacturing facilities. Like there was robotics and logistics and all that. And I couldn't tell, are those high-paying jobs or are they more just manufacturing line jobs? And that's going to determine what sort of people we need. Certainly, it would be good if we got sort of more straight-line manufacturing jobs. But then when you talk about needing to import jobs, this is supposed to be from non-experts. I'm not a complete expert on the education system because, I put my son in a private school. But then all the moms I talk to that have kids in public schools, they feel like there's an assault on all of our best schools. And so it just really makes it hard to attract future people to move to city of Houston. I just feel for super highly educated parents, I'm just going to recommend you cannot go to HISD. You have to send your kids to a private school if you want to move here. And then the question becomes, is this factory really going to be in Houston? Or we can't put it where it's going to be at risk of flood. So you don't want to put it in Pearland. Do you put it in Sugarland, or does it go all the way north to the Woodlands? It's this notion of we can always attract these companies, and it's going to be so easy to get workers to come here. That's just not sustainable in the context of everything else that's going on in this city in terms of economic development, education, crime, and safety.
Right. I'd like to think that, it would feel good to think, Apple scoured the earth for a place to build this thing, and they chose Houston above all others. But like I said, there were these other considerations. But they did it in spite of the fact that, we do have some trouble in our biggest school district.
Good, bad, or ugly, Marco Roberts.
Well, I mean, I can actually kind of share some of the thoughts, the kind of, I think it's like a probably good thing. I mean, it's who doesn't want more jobs? I appreciate what my co-panelists are saying here, that there's actually a more complicated picture that we have to think about, right? And what does it really mean? One of my first questions was, is it really in Houston? Because sometimes they'll say Woodlands. Well, that's not really Houston. I mean, it really isn't. It's 40 miles away. How far are we going to go with this is Houston? And then what does that mean for that development? So when they say Houston nowadays, I don't know exactly what does that mean. One of the things that's interesting about Houston is how much of the growth occurs outside of the original area of Houston, right? So why the downtown Scala looks exactly the same as it did 40 years ago, because all the construction is really far outside, especially for a facility that big. We don't know what the type of jobs are. It was kind of unclear to me, but obviously it's, I'm optimistic, but I also think that there's another issue about the education question, right? Because as Trump pointed out, the United States is very low on the, when we're compared to other Western countries, we're just not doing well educationally. And hopefully, Apple is trying to employ people who are well educated in the technology industry. So I would say cautiously optimistic. Hopefully, it's a good thing, but I'd like to learn more about it.
Panel, here we go again. It's Go Texan Day with trail riders moseying into town to help kick off another Houston livestock show and rodeo. It's estimated more than 3,000 riders take part in 11 organized trail rides and converge here in Houston on horseback. Many will also take part in Saturday's downtown rodeo parade. And then from Tuesday through March 23rd, this year's livestock show and rodeo will be in full swing at NRG Park. There is at least one steak kebab there with my name on it. It's rodeo time again. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Vivian.
Oh, how can this be anything but good? It's. I have so many fond memories of taking my son to the rodeo. So, when he was young, and it was always this fantastic experience. Well, mostly we did the carnival rides, I admit, but this is a time when all of Houston gets together. We do fun stuff like at the Baker Institute. The staff got together and they organized a Texas barbecue the other day, and then they had Western style Jeopardy. One of the category questions was on livestock, and they asked how many pounds of wool does a ewe produce in a year. That was the $1,000 question for livestock. So, it's one way in which everybody gets together and has a good time. It pulls the city together. I'm just kind of bummed because my son and I were looking for a 5K race, and so we didn't realize the dates, and we signed up for the donut run on Saturday morning, and that's when the 5K rodeo race is. So we signed up for the wrong race, although my son wouldn't say so. He probably just wants to eat the donuts.
I was just going to say, if it's a choice between a 5K and making a run for donuts, I'll go have the donuts. Good, bad, or ugly, Marco?
Well, I think that, as Vivian says, who can say it's a bad thing? It's also great. And obviously, I think if I did say it was a bad thing, my life would be in danger in Houston. I wouldn't be able to walk around. But I agree. This is something that everybody likes across the city. It kind of unites the city a little bit. Has a sort of it's a Houston thing. We identify it with it. And it's always nice to have things that kind of like the snow day brought everyone together. It didn't matter what you thought about other things that are going on in the world. This is the one thing that we all like together, even if you're not going. And I mean, oftentimes I don't go because it's just difficult and time consuming it's an investment of time if you want to do it. If you do it, it's great. I definitely would recommend that you're going to invest the time. You might as well stay there for a while. And I would also say don't even try to go out by car because I've tried that a couple of times and I decided it wasn't worth it. I'd rather just do the metro better because it's just the walking and the parking and it's awful.
You just parked downtown and then you took the metro.
Yes, and that's so much. It seems like it's more complicated, but actually it's a lot better to do it that way. So no, I think it's kind of like a Houston's version of Christmas in a way.
All right, good, bad, or ugly, Lisa?
It's good, of course. Although I will say that it took me a while to warm up to Go Texan Day. I showed up, and I just thought it was the funniest thing. I'm like, wait a second, guys. Wait a second. Let me make sure I get this right. So one day a year, everybody dresses like my dad. Because where I come from, Seguin, Texas, I had a pair of boots. I mean, it's just like people just dress like that. So, and then I realized, oh, it's a costume. You got to overdo it. You got to wear like 2 bandanas or whatever. And so once I understood that and make it a costume, the girls had the fringe jackets. We were great. Rhinestones.
There is something very Houstonian about the idea that one day a year we pretend to be Texans.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, I actually grew up in Mexico City. And so I had these images of Texas that were like the movie Dallas or that TV series Dallas, and things like that everybody was in cowboy hats and things like that. Yeah. And then you move here and it's really like almost any other city. But then I go, no, actually they do it, once a year.
Yes,
so there's
at the rodeo and at the legislature.
Right.
When I first started coming to the legislature, I was like, okay, because in Seguin or Central Texas, people just wear regular cowboy hats. But then out in West Texas, or I'm going to get the regions wrong, but whatever, I think it was West Texas, we have these huge, big, something barrel, what do they call them? Hats. And I said, okay, people really do wear those as well. But I love the rodeo. Everybody's got their place that they make the thing that they make a beeline for. And of course, I love the food and the kids love the Ferris wheel. My favorite actually is the little hatching chicks. Like I could stand there forever in the incubator or whatever that is and watch the little chicks come into the world. It's so cool. The animals and
they always have a giant bunny. There's
I haven't seen the giant bunny.
Yeah,
I missed that.
Well, it's so big.
Yeah.
There's so many things to see.
Are you sure it's not someone in a costume?
They have that too. No,
Okay.
but this is like this. I don't know. It's like a 2-foot-long bunny.
Okay. Well, we all need giant bunnies in our lives right now. There's so much going on in this world. This is something that can bring us together. And, I'm not the kind of person who would ever do a trail ride, but I think those people are just so awesome. And I love the coverage and the talking about, how many people in their family did it and it's passed down. And those traditions are just beautiful.
And how many different things you can deep fry and put on a stick.
But yet it doesn't seem to be as disgusting as the State Fair in Dallas. Because
Yeah.
I used to live up there, and I guess I had to cover it at some point for the Associated Press. But my God, just the things are just disgusting up there. But here they're actually intriguing.
I had a similar experience with the State Fair in Pennsylvania for many years, where they famously, and I think a lot of state fairs do something like this, but they'd have a giant carved butter cow that was just full the size of an actual cow, all butter.
Wow.
Yes.
See, butter is one of the things I love most in this world. And so overexposure can kill your love for something, as we all know if we've been in a relationship too long. And so
This is taking a strange
Things
turn.
just took a turn, yes. Let's investigate that a little bit, Lisa.
so I would be careful with my overexposure to butter. But anyway, this is good for Houston. It's a farce in some way, but it's our farce.
Wait, there was one day when I was working at the Baker Institute. It was years ago, and this older couple walked up, and the older man introduced himself. They were coming to look around, and he said he was one of the people who first helped write the original Social Security Act. And they were just coming along to sort of look at paraphernalia. But then so I'm curious about the Dallas Fair, because he said we've been to the Houston Rodeo, and then is it a Dallas Rodeo or the Dallas County Fair? But he was not happy with our version of the rodeo. And he said we've seen it, and it is savage.
Oh my God.
Well, because at the State Fair, I could be wrong on this, but I don't think they have. I don't remember ever seeing an actual rodeo at the State Fair. Like bucking bulls and
Yeah. So what was he expecting? I don't know.
I'm probably wrong on that, Greg. Look
I
that
think
up.
you're going to get emails on it.
But everything. Okay, just remember that everything's worse in Dallas. That's just the rule.
I'll go for that.
Thank you.
I mean, I grew up. I watched my friends, skin their deer, and I had a best friend, a young woman who's actually, anyway, she would castrate bulls, on the weekends. So this
A hobby?
No, her family. She raised.
Okay.
And she
Getting out your frustrations.
then she went to A&M and made a career of it. That's where those people prevail. But there's been times when I'm watching and I see somebody get a terrible injury. I see an animal have to be, carted off. Some of that is difficult with our modern sensibilities, to watch. But the fact is, this is a way of life. This is a sport for a lot of our fellow Texans, and we just have to be exposed to it once a year. So.
Yeah, and I remember being on the Metro and seeing this family, and their son had won the mutton busting competition. He had a belt buckle and the medal and thing. They thought they were so proud of him.
Yeah, some kids, you have to know your kid. You shouldn't be putting a super sensitive kid out there who's like sensitive to, and that's not a bad thing. Super sensitive people are awesome because they have sensibilities that other people don't, but they hear more than other people. Our hearing is better. And the person is more likely to be overstimulated in that situation. And when you look at that poor child in tears, like in trauma, it's terrible. But the fact is they're learning something. It's good for them in some way, I think.
I wondered when I suggested this for a topic, I thought, okay, they're all going to say the rodeo's good. And then I thought, but we do have a panel that can be somewhat contrarian at times. So I bet they're going to say it's good and then come up with all the ways in which it's actually bad. But they're going to call it good.
Craig, I have listed many ways in which it's good for our community to come together over something. So I'm not being a Debbie Downer here.
Yeah, and the giant bunny. Right?
Yeah, the bunny. You forgot the bunny.
I forgot about the bunny.
And the person in the suit, yes. But, I'm not a big rodeo person, but it's one of those things in life that I'm glad somebody else is doing it.
All right, that's as close as a contrarian gets. Positive. Seems all right for other people. Okay.
Let them eat sausage on a stick.
Marco Roberts is chairman of the Texas Conservative Liberty Forum. Vivian Ho is a health economist at Rice University and Baylor College of Medicine. And Lisa Falkenberg is the editor of Opinion and, again, soon to be senior columnist at the Houston Chronicle. Marco, Vivian, Lisa, thank you very much.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.